Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome in. It is Monday, September 21st, 2020, and welcome to New World News. This is officially my first video for this channel. Excuse the background. I will have a new background. I'll have an official setup soon, but I made this channel to document exactly what it's called, New World. Ever since this 2020 craziness has happened, we're in a new world. If you've been living under a rock or out on a deserted island since January of 2020, about 8-9 months ago, we've gone through a global pandemic here in America and across the world. We have probably what is amounted to the most hotly contested, nasty presidential election season in recent memory or ever, at least in my lifetime, and I'm 35 years old. We have racial tensions at an all-time high here in the United States. There have been democratic or protests across the world in the People's Republic of China and Hong Kong. We have had, you name it, everything you can imagine under the sun in this short 8-9 months of this year. And so I wanted to cover as much as possible in as little bit of time as possible and as quickly as possible on this channel. Now, I'm going to try to upload at least 3 times a week. Eventually, it might be daily. We'll have to see how often I can. I'll come up with a schedule and we'll be here each one of those days. Now, with that said, I have 3 stories to cover today, and I appreciate you guys being here. You may recognize me. There are some of you that may watch this and recognize me from another YouTube channel that I have. If you do, welcome in, but please do separate these 2 channels. What I do for business on my channel with 106,000 subs is completely different. And that's why I'm filming here and not in front of my normal display that has my other channel, because I don't want that to have anything to do with this channel. So that's kind of my little intro for you guys. Let's talk about these 3 stories. And the big story from over the weekend, I believe it was Friday night / Saturday, one of our Supreme Court justices passed away, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, of course, female, long-serving judge since I believe the Bill Clinton days, 96 maybe, somebody quote me on that, 06, 16, 20 some odd years she's been a U.S. Supreme Court justice. Now, she definitely is anti-Trump. There is no doubt about it. She's made her, she made her feelings pretty well known before she died. Now, the big news story with that is 2-sided. One, Donald Trump is obviously wanting to fill that seat of the Supreme Court pretty quickly. We have a United States election coming up in about, presidential election coming up in about a month and a half, give or take. And should there be any problems, the United States Senate is controlled by the Republicans, just barely, but they do. And Donald Trump in a re-election attempt would absolutely want to have the Supreme Court on his side. So he wants to fill that seat pretty quickly, and he's got the support of the Senate to do it. So it should not be too much of a problem. Now, the Democrats, of course, are complaining because if we remember back to 2016, when Antonin Scalia, is that how you say his last name? Scalia passed away in early 2016, I believe it was in February or March. The then Democratic president, Barack Obama, had the ability to fill a seat. He did nominate somebody, but at that time, the Republicans controlled the Senate as well, and they chose to allow that nomination to expire. It wasn't until after Donald Trump was elected president, until February of 2017, almost a complete year later, that he appointed Neil Gorsuch, I believe you say his name, Neil Gorsuch, as the new Supreme Court. Nearly a year with only 8 justices who voted 4-4 on any topic. If it was a 4-4 vote, I don't know if any of them came out 4-4, then the lower court's decision would be upheld. So long story short, Trump trying to get the seat filled, the Democrats obviously saying, well, you didn't allow it. The Republicans didn't want that back in 16 because, of who Obama elected or nominated, but of course the Republicans want who they want nominated to be in. And that's pretty much politics 101. Of course they didn't want that person in 16. It didn't help their agenda. Now in 2020, it does help their agenda. That's going to work Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter. If the person getting nominated helps you, you want them. If they don't, you don't. They're calling it hypocritic, but just business, right? Business is politics. Politics is business in Washington. And that's just how it always works. Doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. So I hate to see either side accuse the other side of being hypocritical when in reality, that's just the way it works. You vote for who you want to go in, and if it's not who you want, then you try to delay, deflect. Okay, so that's the number one story. With this channel, I'm kind of gonna put my opinion in where I feel like it's necessary. Otherwise, I'm just gonna put the opinion out to you guys. And I don't know many of you that'll watch this channel unless you come from my other channel. I doubt I'll cross post this at all. But if you are new here, if you don't know me, if you do know me, feel free to use that comment section. Anybody that does know me can attest that I answer all of my own comments, and I try to read as many as possible, even if I can't get around to answering them. So definitely put it down there, and it'll give me some reading material, and I'll respond to as many as possible. Okay, the second topic, as I look down here at my laptop, excuse me if you see me looking down, I'm just trying to keep up with my notes. And the stories, as always, I will link a lot of the news stories I find down below. I don't lean on any one news site. I will quote cite links from everywhere. Red sides, blue sides, left, right, all of the above that I can find. Okay, Trump is looking at two women. One is Cuban, actually, and one is Amy Coney Barrett, who seems to be his favorite. You can look into them. I'll link it as well. Okay, the second story, which I linked out on my personal Facebook yesterday, was the CDC abruptly removing the guidance about airborne coronavirus transmission and says the update was posted in error. So let me give you a little backstory on this. Yesterday, on the 20th, on Sunday, September 20th, the CDC put out an official notice update on their website saying that the virus was airborne. COVID-19 coronavirus was now airborne, and 6 feet would not be enough, that it could travel further than 6 feet, especially if it just lingered in the air and then somebody's walking through. The guidance pertained to the way that the novel coronavirus is spread. While it's known it can spread through droplets among people standing less than 6 feet apart, I don't even know where they get this 6 feet apart from, right? The researchers continue to explore how the virus suspends in aerosolized particles in the air and transmitted to people more than 6 feet away. Pretty crazy, because it's always been this 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. And let me tell you guys, this is why a lot of people who are against masks, who do not wear masks, and who do not believe that masks are doing any good, believe this way. And I'm not going to get into my beliefs and opinions. A lot of you know it. But when you put out statements and then the following day you put out a statement retracting the previous statement that you've been putting out for the last 6 months saying 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet, people already have common sense answers as to why 6 feet doesn't matter. You know, waiters handling your food, and waiters touching this and touching that, and people walking past you, and you're allowed to wear it when you sit down, but not when you walk 2 feet away to the bathroom and back, and all these different things that make a lot of sense as to why it's nonsense. Then when you have them putting out reports that say, oh, you know what, for all this time we told you 6 feet, we're sorry, we were wrong. I mean, really? Like, if you want people to believe you, and I don't care what side of the fence you're on, you gotta get it right. And I know things change, but man, when you start flip-flopping worse than a fish out of water, you lose a lot of integrity, and you lose a lot of people's respect and a lot of people's trust. And so that's what has happened. I don't think any one person knows what's true and what's not, and what's right and what's wrong. No one, it doesn't matter how many letters are behind your name, PhD, MD, virologist, whatever, nobody actually knows. And the problem that I have is we're making a lot of changes and doing a lot of things based on what are essentially a guess, a best guess. And so I think that that's a problem. And this just, highlights that problem, where the CDC puts out a statement saying X, and then they say, well, we were wrong all along. And then they put out another statement that says, no, we weren't wrong. Maybe we were wrong. Let's edit the language. That's literally what they say. You're playing with people's lives here, right? Okay. So the CDC saying 6 feet no longer matters, and that it could linger in the air, and then they're changing that. So who do we believe, right? Okay, so what do you think about that? What do you think about the 6 feet versus it could linger in the air and be 12 feet versus do masks help? Do they not help? What do you think about that, right? Okay, Florida Governor Ron Desantis calls for legislation aimed at cracking down on disorderly protests. So the third part of this video and the story, of course, there have been a lot of protests and a lot of civil distress over Black Lives Matters, over the killing of African Americans by the police. There's been civil distress. There's been a lot of conversation, topics, violent, non-violent, you name it, it's happened. You can't go on Facebook without seeing it. Of course, Those of you that don't know me, I do live in Florida, so a lot of the Florida Man will pertain to this channel. Sorry, I thought about naming this like New Florida Man or something. Anyways, Florida Governor Ron Desantis, our governor, is calling for legislation aimed at cracking down on those protests, disorderly protests. Disorderly, not peaceful. And there have been peaceful protests here in Florida. I've seen them myself with my own eyes. There have been not so peaceful protests. I have seen those with my own eyes. In fact, I was almost caught up in one by about 30 minutes. So the governor has released a sweeping set of proposals on Monday, not laws, just proposals, that would dramatically crack down on people who attend protests that turn violent or disorderly by threatening them with a mix of felonies and increased jail times. This is very important. Listen to this really closely. When we scroll down, the proposed legislation represents a dramatic, if still merely proposed, escalation in the Florida governor's embrace of President Donald Trump's calls for law and order. Now, of course, Desantis, our governor, is a big supporter of Donald Trump, if you are not familiar with that. Those followed a summer of nationwide protests that have taken place in cities since the killing of George Floyd on May 24th by Minneapolis police officers. We know about that. There have been other cases as well. While the wild majority of protests remain peaceful, a report from September 4th found that 93% of racial justice protests since Floyd's death had been peaceful and non-destructive. A minority were interrupted by violence, 7%. I would have to say that it's higher than that. I would have to say 7% is low, and this is no opinion or bias or anything else. We have seen a ton of them on the TV that have not been peaceful, and we've seen a lot, we've not seen a lot on TV. How many have we missed? So if I had to guess, it's probably 50-50, maybe a little less. Not sure about that, but take it with a grain of salt. So here's what it's going to do. It would impose stiff criminal penalties for actions such as blocking roadways, which we saw quite a bit of, disrupting restaurants, or toppling monuments. So I know a lot of people don't believe in the monuments and it's racial figures and it should go. There's a process to having those removed, and a lot of statues and monuments were removed correctly by the city, by the county, by whomever. But there were some that were just destroyed, and that is destruction of property. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe in it or agree with it, you simply cannot go and destroy county and city property, even if it's wrong. You may be right. That person may be a racist figure from the past who was completely wrong. You still can't destroy the stuff. It's just the way it goes, right? So you see videos of these innocent people eating dinner. This is a quote from the governor. You see videos of innocent people eating dinner. You have these crazed lunatics screaming at them, intimidating them on a public accommodation, and you're not going to do that in the state of Florida. So we absolutely saw that from a video in Pittsburgh. I saw one from an upstate video in upstate New York where people were just eating dinner and protests came by and started screaming at them. A lot of it was Black Lives Matters, yelling at them to say their name, yelling at them to get out, doing nothing other than eating in a cafe, and I'll try to link some of those below for you guys. So Micah Kubik, who is the executive director of the ACLU of Florida, said that it's an undemocratic and hostile to Americans' shared values. Now, my problem with that is nobody should be opposing criminals being arrested. If you go to a protest and you destroy stuff or hurt people, then you're not protesting, you're rioting, and you deserve to go to jail. If you're there, you're protesting, you're marching, you're sounding your voice, you're holding signs, you're doing those things, then you won't go to jail, and this won't apply to you. You're good, right? If you're there for a peaceful reason, you're good. And there's going to be a lot of people who will comment, the saying I keep hearing is no justice, no peace. And the thing about that is, no matter how right you are, you can't break the law to prove how right you are, because all you're doing by breaking the law to prove your point is not proving your point. So just keep that in mind. You do yourself more harm than good when you break the law to prove a point. There are legal ways to prove the point. And people are going to backlash on me and say, well, the legal ways and those routes aren't working. But they do. Things have come a long way in a lot of years, and there's always bad apples and things like that. But you're still, under no circumstances, going to improve your situation by breaking the law. So this effort has one goal, is to silence, criminalize, and penalize Floridians who want to see justice for Black lives, whilst to racialize violence and brutality. This is more statement from the ACLU of Florida, Micah Kubik. Among the proposals is a measure allowing motorists to be waived of liability should they happen to kill or injure a protester with their vehicles while fleeing for safety from a mob. This is going to open up the courts to hear cases where 12 people are going to have to decide if that person actually feared for their life. Same as similar to our Florida Stand Your Ground law with guns. The governor Also said the legislation enables the state to use RICO liability. If you're not familiar with RICO, it was created for the mob bosses and mob crime families in America, where they could go after their finances and their funding for anybody that sets this up and gives them money. What you have is clear and predictable penalties. I look at what goes on in Portland, and they'll have people, they'll arrest them. These are scraggly looking Antifa types. They get their mugshots taken and they get released, and it's like a carousel, on and on it goes. This is a very robust package that I think what we're saying is we're not going to let Florida go down the road that some of these other places have gone. And I applaud that. If you're there to peacefully protest, fine. Don't destroy the city. According to the governor's office, the next legislative session commences on March 2021, but committees will begin meeting later this year to begin the process of crafting the language of the bill and finding sponsors. So this bill is probably a year to 2 years out if it gets passed. And with it being here in Florida, there's almost a pretty good guarantee it will get passed. So that's the update from Florida on protester laws. I expect more states to follow, and we'll have to see what happens. But don't expect Oregon or those states to follow. I would highly doubt it. Okay, so we covered Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We covered the filling of the seat. We covered the CDC claims about 6 feet in mask, and we claimed protest updates, or we covered the protest update law from Florida Governor Ron Desantis. So that is the first video. I want to keep this one under 20 minutes. Hopefully I can keep all of them under 20 minutes. I know your guys' time is valuable. And like I said, I'll try to get up 3 to 5 a week. We'll see how it goes. I'll get a new background. I'm moving in a few months, 3 or 4 months. And so we'll have a new professional background set up. I'll get all that taken care of. And other than that, I appreciate you guys joining the channel. Make sure if you like the videos, hit the like button. If you don't like them and you hit the dislike button, it still helps me. I understand, but just so you know, it helps me. And subscribe to the channel for all the updates and all these new videos. It would really make my day, and I appreciate all of you that do subscribe as I get this new channel up and running. New World News NWN, and my name is Casey. If you are new here, thank you. If you are returning from my other channel, appreciate you coming over here. Do keep those channels separate, and don't base my business on what I do here. And if you don't know my other channel, feel free to go check it out. You can look up my name and you'll find it. Okay, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Comments below so I know whether you like it, don't like it, what you want to hear, what you want to see, what you want me to cover, news stories, links, etc. And until next time, I will see you guys then.